my PALS score report I'm going to be presenting today. PALS is a phonological awareness and listening skills assessment that we use with all kindergarten students. The purpose of PALS is to assess our students on their beginning reading skills to see if they have those foundational skills that they'll need to be prepared as they become readers. The first component of PALS is phonological awareness. Students are assessed on group rhyme as well as group beginning sounds. And for group rhyme, they're given a word and then a picture, and you tell them what that picture is, and then you tell them what three other pictures are, and they have to tell you which ones rhyme. And the same thing with beginning sound, except they're looking to tell you which one has the same beginning sound. If they don't reach the benchmark for the group assessment, then they have the opportunity to attempt the individual rhyme as well as the individual beginning sound assessment. The next portion of PALS is their alphabetical knowledge. At the beginning of the year, we assess students on their knowledge of uppercase letters. Most students come in with some more knowledge of uppercase letters than lowercase. And then by the end of the year, we're assessing them on their knowledge of lowercase letters. The next portion we assess is their letter sound knowledge. To assess them on this, we give them all of the letters of the alphabet in random order, and they have to identify the letter sounds. And we also give them a spelling component. And for that, we give them a short CVC word, which is just a word that has a consonant followed by a vowel and a consonant that follows a regular spelling pattern, such as the word lip. And we use it in a sentence and then ask them to write it on their paper. And they're assessed on how many of the letters they get correct, and they get an additional point if they spell the entire word correctly. The next component is concept of word. This is broken down into three areas. Prior to assessing them on this component, we teach them a short rhyme, and for the end of the year, this school year, the rhyme was Little Bo Peep. And so we've taught it orally and shown pictures to go with it, and you point to the picture of Little Bo Peep has lost her sheep, and then the next picture and doesn't know where to find them, and you continue through the rhyme, and they've only done it orally, and then the day of the assessment, they're given a book that has the exact same pictures that you used when you taught it, and it also has the text. And students are expected to point as they recite the rhyme and follow along with the text. Then you give them certain words out of the text and ask them, can you find the word lost? Can you find the word sheep? And they should be able to identify those words by touching them in the text. And the final portion of this assessment is a word list. We give them a word list that has about 10 to 12 words out of the poem that they've just practiced, and ask them to read those words that are on the list in random order. The next portion of PALS is word recognition and isolation. We have three lists that the students can attempt to read. The first list is pre-primer, and if they score well enough on it, then we give them the list of primer words. And if they score well enough on that, then they're exposed to the first grade words. Now we're going to take a look at the class demographics for my class this school year. I have 2 white boys, 4 black boys, and 2 multiracial boys. I have 4 white girls and 5 black girls, so there are a total of 17 students in my class. This is my PALS data for this school year. At the beginning of the school year, 82% of my students benchmarked. At the beginning of the year, the benchmark score is 29. So that means out of 102 possible points, in order to reach benchmark at the beginning of the year, they only have to get 29 points. So that benchmark is pretty low, but of course, they're totally new to school. This is their first experience with a lot of these things. By the end of the year, though, the benchmark has moved to 83. And so there was a major increase. And if you think of it, it's almost like a letter grade because there are 102 possible points. So that's pretty in line with getting 100 points. So they can get 29, which is a pretty low F at the beginning of the year, and then they have to move all the way to getting 83 points in the spring. So it's almost like they have to be at a B average, and 94% of my students reached that benchmark this school year, so all but one of my children benchmarked. At the beginning of the year, we could identify.
Jesus, part of the interruption. Listen, I'm going to do PLPs tomorrow for the rest of my pre-K folks, because they don't have training tomorrow. The rest of my pre-K folks, and the rest of my non-homeroom folks that we coach. I fixed this event today, but the rest of the folks, you have to go tomorrow. And that way give me an opportunity to get all the first grade done and kindergarten done. Thanks.
Thank you. At the beginning of the year, we identified some areas of need. 71% of my students were able to rhyme at the benchmark level. 65% knew the beginning sounds in the words that they were given. 71% were able to recognize the uppercase letters. 82% could accurately identify the sounds of the letters. 65% of my students were able to follow along in text and point. And 65% of my students were able to identify the words from the poem that was taught. This is my end of year score, my PALS report. As you can see, a big area of need that we still have is in concept of word. 76% of my students benchmarked in that area. And, I'm sorry, in the word identification, which is a component of concept of word. And then, when you look at the concept of word overall, 82% of my students benchmarked. So there wasn't as much improvement in that area as there were in some of the other areas, but you can look and see that my students benchmarked in every other area. All but one child reached the benchmark, because you can see here that these two children did not benchmark when they were given the group beginning sound, but then when they had the attempt to do it individually, that they reached that benchmark. So all but one of my students benchmarked in all of the areas, including the sum score. Here's a look at my end of year scores for this school year. In rhyming, my students went from 71% to 94% with the higher end of the year benchmark. The same was true with beginning sound and alphabet recognition. They as well as letter sounds, they benchmarked all but one child. When we look at pointing to the text as they followed along, every student was able to point within the text. And word identification, as I mentioned before, is still kind of an area of concern. 76% of my children benchmarked in that area. I was talking with some of the other teachers about kind of why that might be an area where we're still seeing some lower scores when all of the other scores are really improved. And we think that what's happening is the children are memorizing that poem as they're expected to, and they're just pointing and saying it, but they're not necessarily looking at the text. And so we want to work on getting them to be more attentive and pointing with their finger as well as looking with their eyes at what they're reading, so that they are beginning to develop those beginning reading skills. So now we can look at the sum score for my class. At the beginning of the year, the benchmark, like I said, was 29, and 82% of my students reached that benchmark. And by the end of the year, the benchmark had moved all the way to 83, and 94% of my students reached that benchmark. So taking into consideration all of those skills that we saw at the beginning of the year to be areas of need, we worked with small groups and teachers who pushed in, helped my students on those specific areas that we saw that they needed to improve. And we had really good success with improving their beginning skills. Thank you.